Did you ever wonder if Mozilla, the makers of Firefox, specifically gets money from USAID? I think a lot of us have been wondering that. I think a lot of us have been assuming that they did, but we didn't have all the concrete details. Well, yeah, now we do, and it's absolutely asinine and ridiculous. Mozilla officially gets millions of dollars through USAID to fund, and I'm not joking here, social and political training centering marginalized groups and, this is real, engaging race, gender, and sexuality perspectives. That's a quote, by the way. They get millions for it from USAID, from taxpayers just like you and me. We're paying for the engaging of sexuality perspectives by the makers of the Firefox web browser. This is ridiculous. Now, many of us already knew that Firefox maker, Mozilla, received $1 million from the federal government through the National Science Foundation to work on something called Common Voice. Now, what exactly they were doing with that $1 million? Well, they've been pretty tight-lipped about that. They do not want to say. More on that later. But now we know, because Mozilla has pointed it out, that Mozilla has been getting a lot of money through USAID specifically, and they're real upset that that funding might now be in danger. They just posted this over on X yesterday. Quote, Mozilla was set to receive $3.55 million in U.S. federal funding over the next 3 years. However, this funding is now unlikely to materialize. Despite the setback, we're staying committed to this work, but we need your help to keep up the momentum. And then, of course, they give links to where you can go reclaim the internet. I don't know who took the internet away from Mozilla. They seem just fine at using the internet. I don't know if they need to reclaim it, but you can go give them money because they're real worried about it. Now, this caught my eye, and I reached out to Mozilla privately via multiple channels, specifically asking, what is that $3.55 million? Because I knew about roughly 1 million of that. But that means there's another 2.5 million that I don't have any clue about at all. I was looking through it. I couldn't find announcements on the Mozilla webpage. I was looking, and they just would not respond. Well, then they decided later in the day to send out an email to a whole bunch of people on the Mozilla mailing list, myself included, which describes some of that spending. I'm going to read a little bit to you now because it's insane. This literally is an email that Mozilla sent out. Quote, Mozilla has always fought for an open, accessible internet that puts people in control of what happens online, no matter the obstacles. Today, we need to share with you a significant obstacle we are facing. We expect $3.55 million in funding for Mozilla's work to be in jeopardy because of Donald Trump and Elon Musk's interference with U.S. government science and technology grants. Woo. Boy, they're getting nice and political right out of the gate, aren't they? They continue describing all of it. There's three things they wanted to point out. Number one, two of Mozilla's flagship initiatives, the Responsible Computing Challenge, which helps educate computer scientists and technologists around the world about ethics in tech, and Mozilla Common Voice, the largest open crowdsourced speech recognition dataset, are core to our mission. Now, I'm going to stop right there for a second. Now we're getting somewhere. Responsible Computing Challenge. What they're pointing out here is that they're getting federal funding for the Responsible Computing Challenge. Now, what is the Responsible Computing Challenge? It's awful. I'm going to read details for you in a second. I continue here. Number two, this is from their email. These programs were supposed to receive millions in government funding over the next 3 years. Now we don't know if we'll receive any investment. Number three, you need to know this. Mozilla is not backing down. But we can't do it alone. That's why today we're asking the Mozilla community to help ensure blah, 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 send us money. All right. So what we knew about already, right? The National Science Foundation was giving Mozilla $1 million for Common Voice. Great. let's move on now. Let's move on to the responsible computing challenge, because that's where things get completely insane. The responsible computing challenge is described as thus. The challenge supports the conceptualization, development, and piloting of curricula that empowers students to think about the social and political context of computing, end quote. Okay, so that's the whole idea behind the responsible computing challenge. And they are specifically funded by USAID. The U.S. Agency for International Development is the world's premier international development agency and a catalytic actor driving development results, according to Mozilla's webpage. Oh, yeah. Now, what was interesting about this is I was doing a number of searches for a lot of this detail around Mozilla and USAID, and the page this is on does not show up in most search engines, which leads me to believe that maybe they've got like a robot text where they're blocking searches on this page. I'm not 100% certain, but it's there if you go to the Mozilla Responsible Computing Challenge webpage. Now, what does that money actually pay for? Well, it pays for grants. Basically, Mozilla takes that money in and then gives it out to specific people for specific purposes, such as one awardee will create a bridge towards responsible computing in a first-year seminar and a communications course by centering on data, maps, and spatial justice. What is spatial justice? I haven't a clue, but it sounds ridiculous. Another awardee will pilot, evaluate, and share processes that integrate co-curricular interventions centering marginalized groups. Okay. Another awardee will create student-driven cross-disciplinary learning models on social justice and computing. Another will coordinate development of human contexts and justice curriculum. One awardee will engage new and diverse perspectives on accessible computing by introducing students to digital disability cultures and their intersections with race, gender, sexuality, and class. And of course, another will build an interdisciplinary, intersectional community. It goes on and on like this. There's tons of examples there from multiple years that are just insane. We could do this all day. It's really, really nuts. One of their big reports, because they do these big reports on this Responsible Computing Challenge, states Responsible Computer Science Challenge in-person kickoff meeting. We'll have 2 keynotes on critical race and gender studies and human rights. This is what the money's going towards. And now Mozilla is very worried that evil Elon and evil Trump are taking away their gender studies, critical race theory, sexuality, and gender classes. I don't know why you need this, and I don't know why a web browser maker is making them. Now, I've been trying to get information on all of this out of Mozilla. Like, where exactly is the money for Common Voice being spent? They got $1 million, right? They're getting $1 million. Well, where's it going? So I posted a question to them publicly. I said, hey, I'm working on a piece. This was on their Discord channel for their Discord server for Common Voice. I'm working on a piece which touches on Common Voice, and I've reached out to Mozilla without a response. I figured someone in here may know the answers. I was wondering if anyone here could provide additional details relating to the National Science Foundation grant awarded here. And then I provide the link, which shows the National Science Foundation's specific spending, a little over $1 million with Mozilla. Specifically, what will this grant be funding? The grant description mentions 3 underrepresented American sociolinguistic contexts, which will be worked on. Are there any details around what those are? I have no idea. It doesn't say. And I said, many thanks to anyone or knows who I should contact. Well, one individual chimed in, someone who actually worked on the grant proposal that was submitted to the federal government by Mozilla, which resulted in them being awarded $1 million from taxpayer money. When I asked any possibility of seeing that grant proposal, I'm assuming the proposal includes specifics of where and how the funds will be used. I'm trying to get down to specifics here. this person responded, "I'll have to defer to my colleagues for that." And then I was assured that I would be responded to promptly. This was on March 26th, or on February 26th. It is now March 3rd, about 5 some odd days later. I haven't heard anything. I'm not going to hear anything. I would be really surprised if Mozilla actually responds to anything around this. And I have gotten no response whatsoever relating to everything around their USAID funding. But clearly, they are confident that they will not be receiving that funding because USAID is almost shut down at this point. Now, this isn't terribly surprising. I mean, Mozilla has rebranded themselves as a global crew of activists. Their words. That's their new branding. They're not a web browser maker. They're not an open source champion. They're not a free and open web and free speech advocate. That's not what they do. They're a global crew of activists now. And they're facing massive loss of finances over the coming months from Google, because Google legally may not be able to fund them anymore in the ways that they currently have been. And that may result in a loss of 80% or more of Mozilla's overall funding. Now, it makes sense that they're a bit desperate. They're going out and they're saying, people, please fund us, donate to us. And they're getting a little bit nickel and dimey here, right? Whereas they've been receiving hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, now, shoot, all that money from Google might be going away. So they need every million, every couple million they can get, which includes that USAID taxpayer money. That going away really hurts them at this point. And what I have questions around this is, since Mozilla is clearly a global crew of activists, that's what they want to be nowadays. And the funds coming in through USAID are specifically going towards race, gender, and sexuality perspectives and social and political training and centering marginalized groups and all these other things. Is any of that money going towards, any of those taxpayer dollars going towards some of the really extreme things that Mozilla does? For example, they hosted a huge multi-day party in Zambia just this last year, a couple months back. And this multi-day party in Zambia was a feminist, decolonial, LGBTQIA climate justice using artificial intelligence event, where they specifically focused on the promotion of Marxism, their words, and anti-capitalism. So is U.S. taxpayer dollars funding Marxism and anti-capitalism at Zambian luxury resorts via Mozilla, with feminist, decolonial, LGBT, blah, 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 climate justice using AI? Like, is my money going towards that? I need to know. If my money's going into Mozilla, and it is, I deserve to know where every penny is being spent. And I've been combing through for years now the finances of Mozilla. If you've been following the Lunduke Journal reporting, you know that I did reporting some 2 years back, an article and video series entitled, was it Firefox Money? And it was going through all the weird, dirty ways and kind of shady ways that Mozilla was spending money. And none of this was in there. I want to be very clear about this. They did not call out in their annual reports or in their IRS reporting that they received USAID funding, which then went to these crazy, crazy, crazy political causes. They did not call that out. Now, they did show in some cases where they spent money on these political causes, but they did not show all the money coming in from taxpayer dollars. And none of this is public information. I've been looking, I've been asking over and over and over again, and they have been stonewalling at every single turn. So it's worth noting all that's happening. Now, all this is happening at the same moment, right now, just days ago. Mozilla had a complete leadership change where their new board chair people are more than not staffed by high-level Democrat Party staffers, including an executive from the Democratic National Committee and someone who used to work for Obama and was on a transition team for President Biden as well. Now, if this is all happening and it's going extremely political and Mozilla's putting out emails saying, evil Trump's taking away our tax money. We won't back down. We won't back down. We need our tax money, Trump, you bad guy. And they're saying they're going to go spend this on these extremist, crazy, pro-Marxist political causes. You've got to assume that this is all tied together, right? I mean, these aren't disconnected things. It's all interconnected. And also right now, right in the midst of all of this, and I'm sure many of you have seen this, Firefox and Mozilla changed the terms of use for their Firefox web browser, which is their cash cow. I mean, this is how they make their money at this point. And their new terms of use gives them a non-exclusive, royalty-free, worldwide license to use any information that you input into their web browser in any way they like, including selling to data brokers, advertising directly to you, selling that information to advertising companies, using that information to train artificial intelligence. They can use it however the heck they want. And that includes what links you click on, what websites you go to, and when. Every letter you type, every keystroke, every file you upload, pictures, audio, video, everything. Now, they don't have ownership of it, but you give them a complete non-exclusive rights to use it however they want. And all this is happening at the exact same time. And I want to repeat this because $1 million is going for a diverse voice dictation thing, which is going to help out, what was the phrasing, 3 diverse, underrepresented sociolinguistic contexts or something like that. Another 2.5 million, a little over, was going for race, gender, and social justice training. And it's all paid for by US taxpayer dollars. And all at the same time when Firefox maker Mozilla is saying that they're going to steal your data. Holy heavens. These guys are evil, man. I would really like to see some responses from them about where they're spending my money. Because I pay taxes and they receive millions in taxpayer dollars. So at least a little tiny bit of that is mine. I want to know how they spent it. Specifically, did my money go towards their Zambian luxury resort where they're promoting Marxism and decolonialist blah blah blah? I would like to know that. And I am sorry that they feel so upset that their USAID cash cow may be shutting down, but oh, thank heavens it is. Thank you to all of the Lunduke Journal subscribers. Go to lunduke.com where you can click on all the links, subscribe to Lunduke Journal, and make all of this possible. I can do this reporting, which you'll note you don't find at any other major tech outlet. Shoot, you don't even find YouTubers or podcasters talking about this stuff because of all of you. I take no money from big tech, from open source organizations, from tech foundations, nothing, not a penny, not a nickel, not a dime. It all is funded thanks to subscriptions from people like you, big and small. Couldn't do it without you. Absolutely amazing. So lunduke.com, click on all the links. It's totally rad. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across this wide inner tubes of ours, I do declare, end broadcast.